It's officially been an entire year since I posted a writing episode, but they were a regular series on my channel for a while, and then I went into the editing phase and writing wasn't happening, but we're back now. So I missed the series so much, to be honest with you guys. Like, this was probably one of my favorite series to make on my channel, and I haven't been able to do it because I haven't been making that much writing related content in my story. I haven't been making progress. I was deep into betas, I was deep into a bunch of other things, but now we're finally back and we're talking about how my progress has gone, because there's a lot I need to catch you guys up on. Oh my god, because it's been a year. I've still been doing things, but it was all editing, and now I'm writing again, so good times. So I think the main thing people are going to be wondering is, well, what are you writing now? I thought you were doing your second rewrite. I mentioned that in a couple videos. I mentioned it on social media a lot. Are you writing new content? I thought you were just rewriting a couple chapters and they were done, and that the 11th draft would be basically where you were stopping, just 10, 11, and then I'd go into another beta round, and then I would, you know, once I checked for consistency and flow in between all the different rewrites and stuff, I would go and submit to a bunch of different things. Rude trash can man. And I would just do that. That was my plan, but the plan did not work out that way. So instead, what I've been doing that I haven't been telling people about, I barely told like one of my critique partners what I'm doing, but it's that I'm doing a third rewrite. Yay! It's a whole lot of work. My CP, Jessie Elliott, like wanted to smack me through the screen when I told her when we were Skyping. But after I explained it, she was like, okay, I understand now. And it was basically that I was doing a second rewrite, and it wasn't like a full rewrite. Let me basically explain. The first rewrite I did, it redid a lot of the story, but there's still some key chapters that I kept the same. Like I'm in my 12th draft now, and I still had chapters from the first time I ever wrote the book. It had been edited a lot, but it was still the same original content. The second rewrite was to fix the chapters that just weren't working. It was a lot of fixing the beginning, and a lot of keeping the ending the exact same. And after that, I tried to do the second rewrite, which was just supposed to be to fix like 3 chapters and redo the beginning, and that was it. And I got almost completely through with that. I did the entire beginning again. I did half of one of those chapters, and I didn't even touch the 3rd chapter I needed to redo, because I realized as I put together all the previous chapters from the last draft and put them beside the new draft, that none of them worked together anymore. The content was so obviously, it like looked like it was from 2 different people. I've been writing this book for 3 years now. It's completely changed. My writing style, my everything has changed so much that none of the words went together anymore, and that kind of sucked, but it made me realize that a 3rd rewrite was definitely what I needed to do so I could get rid of all that content. I found instances of where I mentioned a character that I cut out of the book in like the 3rd draft was in there. Like, he was only briefly mentioned in like the first ever beta round that I did, and then I cut him out, and that was only like not even 5 drafts in. And there were still instances of his name in there. I don't know how the hell that happened, but there was several instances. It wasn't even like him being in the scene. It was just his name being mentioned in like when they were listing off names of people. And I think he did show up in one scene and then he never showed up again. God. It's just the book is such a large book, and there's been so many drafts now that I didn't even remember what the content of the book was anymore. So for instance, when I did my second rewrite, I was rewriting, and in my mind I was thinking that I still had content from like my 3rd draft in the book, and that wasn't the case anymore. So things didn't add up. The consistency was so off, the style was not the same, and there was just too many problems. So I decided to do a 3rd rewrite and re-outline the entire book and add new content in there while keeping some of the core things that I really loved, but I'm not keeping the same exact words. The only things I'm going to be keeping is I'm gonna go through and make a list of all of my favorite quotes I've already like told you guys about, quotes that are really important to like specific scenes and foreshadowing and different things like that, and I'm gonna keep those parts in there, but everything else is gonna be brand new. The characters are the same, the general plot is the same, it's just that I fixed it so that they're not like jumping from one location to the other and then going back to the first location, because there was a lot of that in all these drafts. There was like, oh, we just worked to this place and we went back. It's just, that's what happens when you get like 12 drafts deep. You don't remember what you wrote 3 years ago, and then you pull that and it doesn't match what you're writing now at all. And that was a huge problem, and I finally was just, enough. I'm going to put in the work, I'm going to put in the effort, and I'm going to do a third rewrite. I'm not going to be lazy with this story. There's tons of times, you know, when I've thought about quitting the story because it's just too much, but it's the story of my heart, and as I think Kim Chance retweeted recently, it's like, it's the story of my blood, sweat, and tears as well. Like, it is all of those things. I've poured 3 years of my life into the book. I have learned so much, but I know that the story isn't just something that I'm supposed to learn from, it's something I'm supposed to put out into the world, because I feel like it's something that people want to read, it's something people need to read, and I'm determined to get it to that spot where it will be appropriate for the masses to have. So it's just a matter of getting to that spot. But I definitely feel like I'm making amazing progress with the story. I started the third rewrite, I think, start of February. I'm only about 5k words in, but part of the reason that the story got so messed up from the first couple drafts is because I ended up winning NaNoWriMo with the story, and I am not a fast drafter. When I fast draft, I can get stuff out really quick. It's just that it requires a billion times more work than when I slow draft. And my slow drafting isn't that slow either. I think this is probably the slowest I've ever written a story, but again, for February, I was sick for 2 weeks. I'm barely getting it over today. Like yesterday I still had a runny nose, and today I'm kind of a little bit nasally, a little bit. I just had no energy to go and write. I had no energy to do anything. I had to call off from a couple days of work and give my shifts away. I just basically laid in my bed over here for 2 weeks. And my boyfriend, I got him sick too. You can see my voice was going away too, and it was just a whole thing. So I'm hoping March is the month that I really kick it up, because I'm trying to not fast draft it, but I want to work on it consistently. And I know for me, when I slow draft, basically what it is that I edit as I go, and it ends up really, really clean. So I don't like use placeholder names. I don't use, like, I don't just write something for the sake of getting the words down and getting on to the next scene. I really relish every single scene that I'm writing, and I take really good care of each individual thing. And I feel like my writing was better when I was doing that. When I do that, because I've done that occasionally on different projects since I started Spaceborne. I've done it in certain scenes, which ended up being my favorite scenes or chapters. I've done it on like short stories and novellas that I've done for it that are in the same world, but I just wasn't doing it for the novel, and that's where it was really counting. And instead I was just fast drafting and just trying to get through as many drafts as possible, because I was like, okay, this draft is it, this draft is it, this draft is it, but none of them were, because I initially made the work so much harder on myself by doing NaNoWriMo with it. For me, I just don't think I produce my best work when I'm doing NaNoWriMo or even one of the camps or anything like that. I still want to participate, but I don't think I'm going to strive for the word counts, because I don't want to write for the word counts. I want to write for my love of the words. I made a whole video about this. I'll link it up in the cards. And I think I made a second video. They'll all be linked in the cards on basically how I fell back in love with my words and how you can too. And I just want to relish in that experience, because I love drafting. I'm not that big on editing, but I've kind of fallen in love with it because I've been doing it for like a year or two now straight. Definitely a year straight at least, and then on and off for the 2 years prior to that. And I'm kind of loving it now, but drafting is where I found my passion for writing to begin with. It is where I really started falling in love with stories, and it's something I had to go back to, and I'm really looking forward to where the story is going. It is different than what it used to be. It starts off in a completely different place, but it's a place that I feel like the story was supposed to start off in. Originally, the story was supposed to start out in the draft 0 stage, I'll call it, because it was just when I was trying a billion different starting points for the book. One of the first ones that I tried, if not the very first one, was Soraya sitting alone in a dark apartment that just has its electricity and all of its necessities turned off because she couldn't pay the bills, and her just being really fucked up, and it's raining outside and it's very slummy and dark but still like a grungy sci-fi kind of feel to it. And then she gets a mission that changes her life forever, and then it's from someone she hates very much. And that was one of, if not the very first chapters that I tried to write. That's how I thought the story was originally going to start for a while, and then I scrapped it. And I ended up trying a billion other things, and then eventually I decided on a courtroom scene that is no longer in the book. There's still like a courtroom, but it's not an actual like trial going on like it originally was. And instead now it goes back to those sci-fi grungy slum street kind of feel, and it instead starts off with Soraya on a rooftop with someone she really hates doing something she really doesn't want to do, but is kind of doesn't have a choice in. And the moral implications of that are something that I feel like really grounds the story, because the whole story is a lot about moral gray zones and trying to figure out whether or not something you're forced to do that you concede into doing is your fault or not, or is it the fault of the person who forced you to do the thing? Do you take responsibility for something you did that you didn't have a choice in doing, or is it on somebody else who forced you to do said thing that is not a good thing? And that's something that's brought up a lot in the story. A lot of the story has to do with morals, as a lot of different sci-fis do. But the whole gang is a lot of morally gray people who try not to kill each other while they try to save the universe. So going back to those roots and grounding the story in that first and foremost is something that I think just fits the whole thing way better than the courtroom, which kind of makes everything seem very black and white. And so that's where the story is now. From there it goes on to introduce some more characters, and then it goes to a chapter that I've written many times. I read part of it on this channel, and I'll link it up in the cards as well. And it's basically this very icy planet with a laboratory frozen in the snow, and Soraya goes to try to save somebody in it. And it's evolved past what it originally was. It originally was she's saving one person, and now it becomes she's saving way more people. She doesn't even know it. So that is a chapter that really grounds me in the story. Whenever I get to that chapter, I know I can just finish the entire book, no matter what like draft I'm on. Throughout all these drafts, as soon as I get there, I'm like, this is the story, this is kind of where it takes off, and that chapter is a lot closer to the beginning than it used to be. So I'm very excited, and I feel like the beginning isn't just filler anymore either. A lot of the times I felt like everything before that, excuse you, I felt like a lot of the time everything before that was filler, but everything is needed to be in there. It's very more streamlined, it's way more condensed, but in a way that is necessary, a way that makes sense. My doggo doesn't respect my filming time. But yeah, now we're on the 12th draft, the third rewrite, and I'm very excited. I know I made one of my goals to get to the 13th draft of the story, but there might be more drafts now because I know there'll probably need to be more work because I'm writing everything from scratch again, but I don't know. So yeah, I'm on the 12th draft. I'm about 5k words in, a little bit over that. It's about 3 chapters. I'm about to start the 4th one. That's where they go to the actual icy planet goodness that I'm very excited about. Oh gosh, I'm very excited for the details, because I feel like when I had to cut down on the word count, I cut a lot of the beautiful prose and the details from the chapter, and I would like to try and put those back in and still keep the word count below 100k. I would like to make it even lower than the 97k that I had last time, because the lower the better. The more likely a agent will not hate me for sending it to them. But yeah, it's about 3 chapters in. I'm about to start into the 4th one. I'll probably start it today. I'm very excited about it. I am anticipating greatness. But real quick, I wanted to talk to you about failure, because damn, the last year I fucked up a lot with the story, with things revolving around the story. I messed up, I made mistakes, and I've come to the terms of understanding that that is perfectly alright, because everyone does it, and everyone can have a perfect author journey. The journey into authorhood doesn't work that way. And I want to talk to you guys a bit about it right now, because if you are feeling like you need to be perfect, like my Virgo self always does, then I'm hoping this will help you understand that even people who try to be as perfect as possible mess up a lot. And that is perfectly okay. It's just part of the journey. But basically what I majorly failed at was not only did I not realize that I needed this third rewrite until way into the game, 12 drafts in, but I majorly fucked up with my last round of betas. Last time I had a writing episode, I talked about how I was going to be doing it during the summer. I'm hoping that this year I will also be doing my beta reading this coming summer, but I have to finish the story first and edit it until I think it's right to send out to people, so it might get pushed until early fall, but we will see. I messed up with the last round. I've only had 2 rounds so far, but that second round that I was telling you guys about in the last episode, I didn't do a test run with betas, which I was just, that's when I took my hiatus, and that's when so many things were going on in my life at the time, so it didn't even go through my mind. I did not send a chapter or 2 or 3 to people to go and test out. I just picked people randomly and decided, okay, you guys have the whole book. And basically no one read it. I had like maybe 3 or 4 people finish it. I even ended up just telling some of my CPs who had it, like, don't even bother, because I knew it wasn't ready by that time. Like, by the time I actually sent it out to people, I was looking over it again, and it wasn't at a state that I wanted people to read it in, but people had it, and then it was obvious that it wasn't ready, and no one read it, so it's fine. But I should, like, this is just a note and piece of advice for anyone who wants to do beta rounds, who wants to go and start into the beta journey. Always send the betas you choose a couple chapters to go and test out how good they are. I think from now on I will probably send beta test chapters to every single person who applies, just to see whether or not they're actually going to read it, whether they like it, or whether their comments are actually beneficial in essence. Not that they're like kissing my ass the entire time, but just that they're not super mean, that their comments I think are gonna help me a lot, and that they mix in a bit of like good constructive criticism along with praise and along with shitting on me, and that it's just even. It's not like one or the other. I don't need ass kissing, and I don't need to feel like shit about my writing. So all the people in the middle who actually want to read the book and actually like it after starting it, those are the people that I'm gonna go after, and I think I'm just gonna give the first 3 chapters to probably everyone who applies this time. I have a lot bigger audience now though, so it really just depends on how many people sign up, and how many people are like repeats, how many people I've said that they could already read, things like that, because I don't want to have more than 20. Because 20 is already hard enough, and 20 was hard even when I was just sending I just sent the full book to people because I didn't have time to go and send everyone 3 chapters at a time. I think this round though, I'm gonna be a lot more diligent, I'm gonna be a lot more on point and on task. I'm probably gonna only send people 1 chapter at a time. It really just depends on how the length goes. If they're shorter chapters, then 3 at a time, but we will see. But yeah, I totally failed on that. Basically no one finished it. I didn't even have like my CPs finish it. I would just like stop reading it. I know what's wrong with it. It's over. I had one of my critique partners who I adore very, very dearly. Her book is amazing. I've read it for her before. She got a hold of the book, and within the first week she told me everything wrong with it just from like the first 2 chapters, and then I was like, well, I already know what I have to do, and it changes the entire book, so everyone else's comments are kind of pointless at this point. But I did find some nuggets of wisdom here and there from other people who did finish, so it wasn't completely wasted on them. And I just loved some of their comments. Some of them were hilarious, some of them were really like helpful to me, and it was just a whole thing. I just was really discouraged around the summer, and I couldn't give it the time that I was supposed to, so I definitely failed my own beta reading process. But this summer it's not going to be like that. I'm going to be way more in touch with my betas. I'm going to be way more diligent on who I choose, and I'm going to have a test round. I'm not going to pick everybody, but I will probably send everyone something. It's a whole process that I'm excited about again. I love people reading my book, even though sometimes it can be soul crushing. I think one of the reasons that I was really disheartened and didn't, you know, pick up writing as much as I should have this year was because after that whole process, when I felt really bad by sending people stuff that wasn't ready, and by not getting many people who enjoyed what I sent out, I felt really bad about my writing, and I let it affect my productivity, which I shouldn't have, which is another fail. But it's just something that happens. You're not always going to be on par, and I realized what I needed to do after then, and probably not to the full extent. I feel like I sort of got the gist of what I was supposed to do. I fixed the problems that I was supposed to from what my CP told me, but at the same time, it needed a third rewrite. It still needs the third rewrite to be done, and I'm excited that I finally realized that and admitted to myself, like, it needs that work done to it because you fucked up by doing it with NaNoWriMo and finishing the book with NaNoWriMo, because I did. And I'm very proud of myself for still finishing it, but I should have just had the second rewrite be an entire rewrite of it and not tried to get around it because I was feeling lazy after 3 years of writing the book. But that's just me being super honest. After you work in a world for so long, you get really tired of it, and I was getting tired of it. But now I feel like so much more overjoyed to start the book. I feel like that spark of joy and energy and love for my story again that I kind of lost a little bit, and now I'm so excited to jump into more of this third draft. It is going to be the best version of itself that it's ever been, and I thought it was pretty good so far. I feel like, though, the edit that I did right before I sent it to my beta round the second time fucked it up a lot, and that and the fact that I didn't do any test chapters, it was a whole damn thing. I also sent people like 100k manuscript right out of the gate, and I feel like that scared off a lot of people too. But thanks for the people who did finish it, who actually really enjoyed it. I was like, holy cow. But even they admitted, like, the beginning of it, it's like, the beginning is the part that I always had problems with, but they were always like, yeah, the beginning's slow as fuck, but then once you get past this one chapter, the rest of the book is like incredible. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Now the whole thing is actually going to be consistent in its flow and in its style and everything else, and I'm very excited. Another fail I had was in my planning for this year. I guess you could say this is how recent I realized I needed a third rewrite, because if you check out my yearly goal video, which came out early January, late December, I wanted to be querying by the end of this year. I also wanted to submit to Author Mentor Match, and I thought I was actually going to be able to do it by this Author Mentor Match that is in March, that I think is already passed by the time this video is coming out, and boy, it ain't ready. It's not gonna be ready. It's not even written now, and I don't know if it'll be ready by October. I don't know if I'll be able to query this year. My goal is still, though, to have the entire thing really clean and edited and redrafted and rewritten and really clean edited after that, and have it with betas by summer, have my rest of my big picture edits done by fall, and then submit to AMM in October. I think that's when the next round is going to be, and then query in the new year, or like right before the publishing industry slows down in the winter. We will see. It also depends on whether or not I get picked up for AMM, which, if you don't know what that is, Author Mentor Match is hosted by a bunch of lovely people, and basically it's authors who are already published or who have agents, and they go and decide to mentor people who submit to them. And it's a really great opportunity. So many people that I know have gotten picked, or they've entered, or they've just loved the experience of watching everyone do all of the great things, and even I just love watching from the sidelines. I'm a part of some of the groups, and I like seeing everybody sharing their queries and all this other stuff, but it's just not for me right now. Hopefully by the fall it will be. If I haven't already started querying by then, I might query a little bit before, submit to AMM, or I might query afterwards. It really just depends on what state the story is in around that time. But yeah, you guys, look out for beta readers this summer again. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be way more in touch. But now it is time for some viewer questions, and don't forget to leave your questions about my work in progress, my writing process, anything else book writing related, YouTube related, everything at all, or just even personal questions down in the comments down below, or you can always DM me them, and I will put them in the next writing episode, which will be happening a lot sooner than last time. This is a question I literally got a year ago that I'm finally going to answer, but it's Shiva Shea Rates Books asked about getting over the fear of writing a space novel. Now, I think this month I'm going to actually do a whole video on sci-fi writing tips, specifically, you know, there'll be tips in there for writing specific books in space, because sci-fi is a large genre that includes space opera, it includes dystopian, it includes a bunch of other things, but specifically space operas can be very daunting because there's this whole science aspect of it, and that's a big thing in science fiction in general, which my main tip is always going to be there should be science in your science fiction to some degree. But when you have a story in space, one of the things that a lot of people will criticize you for is that your science is all fucking wrong, even though like it's a fiction book. But when you have it set in something that vast, that has certain laws to it, you really have to know the laws. Otherwise people don't think that your story works, because it doesn't, you know. It's one of those things that, like, unless you're going to specifically make it a fantasy in space, like for example Saga and Star Wars are, it's not gonna work. So for example, you can't say that you heard someone screaming from the outside the ship because there's no sound in space, you know? You also have to know that when you go and break through an atmosphere, there's gonna be fire and flames. You're not just gonna like smoothly go down like in Futurama. Like, there's just certain things that, and laws you have to know and to follow, and sometimes you have to do a whole bunch of research just to figure out if one scene is going to work. And that can be very, very scary. But at the same time, you gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta know that if you really, really want to write this story, it's just something you have to do, unless you want to make it a fantasy in space, which I personally think we've seen way too much of because people want to get around the research phase. But I think a lot of people are really getting to like into the fad of space stuff, which I've been in for a long time. I'm looking around like an entire room, every space thing that's like everywhere in my room. But you have to just be willing to do the research, and for that, and to be passionate in that, I think you have to be kind of into that fad a little bit. You have to be passionate about space and science and learning about it, and if you get those things right, and you can explain it in a simple way to readers, then I think you can go really far in the sci-fi space area of the whole thing of writing. A lot of people just don't want to do the research because they're a little bit lazy, but if you're doing a sci-fi, there is a lot of world building to do with it, and if you're not prepared for that, I would say don't write it. I would also say find a different genre that doesn't require that much research or that much world building, because you're always going to need research and world building, but if you're not actually passionate about the specific subject you're doing, you're not gonna be able to be running in that longevity you need to actually finish a novel, especially because sci-fis and novels taking place in space are usually a lot longer, which means they take a lot more work. So you have to be really passionate about it, and if you're passionate about it and you do your research and you know your shit, then what is someone gonna say? Oh, well, your thing here doesn't make any sense. You're like, well, actually, this science says that it is. They just shut up. And I think that's one of the fears, is that people are gonna think that you wrote something wrong, or that you didn't do your research right, or you're gonna waste your time on the story because you did so much research and then realize by the time you're writing it that it's wrong. That's another tip. Don't do all the research before you even start the story. Write a lot of it before you even go and do your research. Do this research as you need to know it, because otherwise you're just gonna be pooped out and you're gonna do a lot of research for a story you never even end up finishing. That, I hope, lessens your fears a little bit, or makes you learn that you need to write something else. Madeline Writes, the great, awesome Madeline Writes from Twitter, asked me a bunch of different questions, so let's go through them. What inspired #Speedbeat book, which is my novel Spaceborne? So I have this up on my Spaceborne website actually, which is getting redone right now, so it might actually not be available for you, link down below right now, but we will see. I'll write a little note here if it is, or if it isn't. But basically, for a little context, I used to be a huge night owl, so I would do all my writing at night. I would stay up from like, you know, I'd be writing from like 6 p.m. to like 4 in the morning, or earlier. Like I remember sometimes I'd be like 7 a.m. and I would just be barely finished writing, and I would just collapse in bed and then still wake up at like noon, just because I'd get so obsessed with it and I couldn't stop myself. This is how I would get like 10k word days on the regular, because I was just so obsessed with whatever story I was in. That's one of the reasons I never ended up editing anything, was because I love drafting too much. So it was one of these days when I was staying up writing something. I can't even remember what it was at this point, and it was probably around 5 to 6 a.m. because the sun was just barely peeking up over the mountains, and it kind of just painted the entire, like, my room, the hallway, the bathroom blue. Everything was just really blue, and I was just really tired, like, you know, brushing crumbs out of my eyes, slinking around in my robe and pajamas, and just something about the feeling of all the light being blue and me kind of feeling like I was floating kind of just gave me this otherworldly feeling. And I kind of ended up having this weird daydream of a girl sitting in a spaceship looking outside of like the window, and the whole room was painted, you know, this soft blue, and she's just kind of contemplating whether or not trying to save humanity is worth losing your humanity, and whether or not that is justifiably something that's okay, you know, whether or not the moral implications of that are something you can sleep with at night. And those moral questions kind of birthed the story, and the idea of this woman just sitting in this blue room that's probably being like painted by like a, you know, a blue star somewhere, and just looking out into the stars and contemplating all these heavy things and just wondering, you know, and my question was, why is all of this on her shoulders? Why is all of this on this one woman's shoulders? Why is she thinking so deeply about all these moral questions that are just, why are they plaguing her so much? What is she a part of that is making this such a difficult choice for her? Why is this so meaningful to her? Because yes, it's a big question. Yes, it's something that's very daunting to even think about. But specifically, why is she so wrapped up in it? Why does she need an answer? You know, for us, we can think philosophically about those questions and what the answers would be to them, but they're, and you know, they might make us worry a little bit, but for her, it was so much more personal. It was almost like she was contemplating her own choices. Like, well, is what I did okay? Was losing my humanity to save humanity the best thing to do, or am I wrong? That personal battle with the morally gray in this space setting where everything is soft and blue, but everything is really in her mind just this blood red, like this, really got me spiraling into these crazy questions myself, and I felt like I needed to find the answer to these, and I needed to figure out what that answer was for myself, and whether or not that answer was different to different people. And those questions are what birthed the entire story. It was just this idea of this woman sitting in like a window box on a spaceship, wondering about humanity and wondering about morals and wondering about whether or not she was doing what was right, or whether or not she was completely wrong in what she was trying to do. And that was making me wonder, what was she doing? Why she's on the spaceship? What is this world? And that birthed the entire thing, was just these moral questions, and that's why I wanted to go back to them so bad. But that inspired the entire book. That was where everything came from, was that one tired as fuck daydream I had while I was trying to go pee. I literally got up from my desk, I think it was, at the time it was in the kitchen, and I came in here to go grab something to use in the restroom, probably like a washcloth or something, so I could wash my face before I went to bed, and I was coming out of this room just sluggishly going to the restroom that's like right there, and I was just like, oh my god, that's a great idea. And thankfully I actually remembered it when I woke up, because as soon as I washed my face I immediately went to sleep, and I woke up and it was still in my head and it just wouldn't leave me, and I knew I had to figure out what this was and how to write it. And the first thing that popped into my mind about the story after that was just who the woman was, and her name ended up being Soraya Larson, and that's where the whole damn thing started, because she's at the core of it, she's the main character, and she rocks the whole damn thing. She also asked what's my favorite part of the writing process. I think I already kind of touched on it here, but it's drafting. It's definitely everything from coming up with the idea and the characters. I think my characters and having specific scenes where they're together bonding in certain ways are probably my favorite scenes to write. But the original drafting stage or rewriting, I'm gonna say rewriting. That seems to be the easiest for me, especially this time around, is because I already know the characters, I've already done all the work. It's just a matter of making it all beautiful and consistent, and I don't have to like discover the story as I go because I already know the story. So I think rewriting is probably my favorite. Rewriting and drafting are probably like tied. She also asked what my favorite sort of characters to write are, and that is the sarcastic, heartwarming assholes. There's a lot of them in Speedbook book, and they're basically like the asshole brothers or the kick-ass moms, like things that are kind of juxtaposed to each other, though asshole brothers are just a usual thing, but you know what I mean. But characters that have traits that usually don't go together, who are very sarcastic, funny, and usually dirty-minded, but who still keep like the whole team together. Those are probably my favorites. I have a couple favorites in my book, but then if I name them all off, they're just the whole cast. The whole cast is a bunch of sarcastic assholes who love each other but also want to kill each other, and that's just a whole damn mood. Who would play your characters in a movie, she asked. For me, I would want relatively unknown actors to play just about everybody, because I wouldn't want the focus to be, oh my god, this actor's in the movie, I have to go watch it. I would rather be like, oh my god, the book's turned into a movie, and the fans to be like, oh my god. But I would want, definitely, at least for Soraya's character, a relatively unknown actor, but someone who's like a mix of Margaret Robbie, so whatever it is, Margaret Robbie and Charlize Theron, but like younger. them mixed together and younger is Soraya. Like, those two together is, like, their love child would be Soraya, and I need it. I need to find somebody who I can be like, this is the person. For everybody else, I don't really have anyone in mind, but I would want them to be relatively unknown, except for there's one actress, and I never know her name, and I couldn't pronounce it even if I tried, so we'll just stick her right here. I adore her because of her accent, and because she's been in a lot of things that I really love. Like, she's in The Expanse, she's a character in Mass Effect. Like, I would just want her to be a part of it. I don't know what character she would even play, but I love her accent, so I need her to voice act like a cool alien or something. Just that. She also said, what is your ultimate author dream aside from publishing? I would probably say it would be to have like a movie or a theme park ride or something like that. Like, if it was, oh my god, my ultimate author dream, I just came up with it, is that I'm a New York Times #1 bestseller. My book gets picked up by not Warner Brothers, but from Universal, and they make it into a ride at Universal Studios. Oh my god. I literally went to Universal so much last year because I had a pass. Me and Steven had a pass. I bought it for him for Christmas. I love their rides so much. I literally gone on like the same ones a bazillion times and never get tired of them. If I could get like a Harry Potter style, like a Harry Potter World style kind of thing at Universal Studios, that's my ultimate author dream. Because not only do you have the New York status, but you got your book is a movie, and then you got a fucking ride. Like, I would have a pass for life. I would have to find a way to get a life pass for that shit because I need it. So much. Oh my god. I would love it for it to be like almost like the Transformers ride, but like more updated and more movement, because a lot of the times you're just like, it's fun, the Transformers ride, if you've ever been on it, but it's kind of like you're just on the track a lot. And then like it shows you different screens. I would rather have it kind of be more interactive and like everything shakes with you and stuff too, kind of like their tour ride when you're with Godzilla and the dinosaurs. Bit of that, but then all like, okay, best thing I can compare it to is the Harry Potter ride where you're like in the sea and it like tips you back really far, except for I wouldn't want it to tip me back or go upside down at all because I have a very weak stomach, and literally I wanted to vomit after that ride. Like, I almost did, but it was so fun, and I'm so mad. I should have taken Dramamine with me before the last time I went so I could go on it one more time, because it's the only ride I went on like only one time. That and the Minions ride, because it's Minions, but it actually wasn't that bad. But that's my ultimate author dream, is to have a fucking ride movie shit for my because I just love Universal. But really, anyone who wants to make my book into a movie, you're free, go ahead. Alright, also, author Piper K asked whether I thought it was a good idea for authors to start YouTube. Basically, I think this is going to go back to the tea videos I made, because of the things that are not going on too well in the community behind the scenes. So I think that's kind of what she's related to, is whether or not it's still a good idea for authors and writers to join AuthorTube. And my answer to that is a definite yes, because for most people, you are not going to come in contact with those people unless you get on kind of their status level, which is a complete possibility, but hopefully if you watch my videos you kind of get the gist of who is abusing their power on the platform, and you can kind of avoid it, or you can just join them. I don't really care at this point. I've lost all fucking interest. I had followed all these people from everything. I haven't seen their face in weeks, and I'm fucking happy. I literally just fucking muted. I muted everyone. But if people ask me this a lot, whether or not they think that it's still a good idea, and the thing is that AuthorTube is like my pride and joy. I've been here since literally day one. I was making videos before AuthorTube was even a name or a thing. I was, you know, on YouTube, not necessarily making only writing related content, but I was making like bookish and kind of writing related content all the way back in the days of Caleb Nation, if anyone remembered that guy. That guy was the OG AuthorTuber, and he had like 1 million+ followers. Like, there was no end to that guy's following, and he just kind of fell off the face of YouTube as soon as he got married. He fell off a little bit before that too, but God, I loved his videos so much, and he's kind of what got me thinking about, oh, well, I can make videos about writing. That's fucking like a novel idea. And I didn't do it too much because it was more of a comedy channel, but then I slowly started making them and AuthorTube became a thing, and I jumped on the bandwagon of that and it blew up. So I would definitely say that it's definitely worth it, because just from the community and the people you find who uplift you, it's so worth it. Because yeah, there's gonna be people who are not gonna treat you and other people right. There's gonna be people who want to abuse their power that they have due to their following, and there's people who's just gonna be dicks. But I mean, it's so worth it still, because 1, you're gonna get your own following of lovely, amazing people. 2, you're gonna connect with people like crazy who just want to see you succeed, and that is so worth it, because I made some of the best friends I'm gonna have for my entire life because of this place. And 3, you're going to grow as a writer so incredibly much just by sharing your journey that it's gonna overwhelm you. And also 4, guys, you're gonna have a diary of you going from point A to point B in your author, publishing, writer journey for your entire life. That is something no one can take away from you. You're going to have documentation of when you started a book, to when it was finished, to when it was on a shelf, to when you had it in your hands, to all these different things. And that is something that no other writers have really had before. Again, the OG one was Caleb Nation. I remember him pulling his first ever book out of a box and, you know, having little sprinkling tears in his eyes a little bit. I remember when he was doing like book tours and things like that. Like, he had vlogs of every single day when he was on book tour, I think. They weren't like proper vlogs, but they were still like clips and like, what should I eat today kind of things. And that's something that, even though he's not on YouTube, excuse you, OfferUp. But those are things that no one's gonna be able to take away from you. Even though he stopped doing YouTube, those videos are still up. He probably still has a hard drive somewhere with those videos on them. And he's gonna have that forever, even if he never publishes another book again. Even if he never publishes another video again, he's gonna have them for himself so that he can remember those days when he was putting out content like that, when he was doing the dream that a lot of us have. And for all those reasons, it's definitely worth it to go and make a YouTube channel, to do AuthorTube, to do as much social media stuff related to authorhood as possible. I mean, it's one of the best things, honestly, that has helped me as a writer. It's one of those things that has made me so much more confident in my writing, and it's something that's brought me to some amazing people and given me some amazing opportunities. I would not be the same writer I am today without it. And even though, yes, there are some rough patches, yes, there are some people who don't want to see you succeed, there's some people who will try to tear you down, there are some people who will really make it their duty to try and make sure that you know what an absolute piece of shit writer you are. Or some people who go and just try their hardest to make it so that you don't feel comfortable in the space. You will find people who will make sure that you want to stay because they're so worth it. And because your journey you're gonna be on together is so unique to you, it's so much worth it. And yeah, the platform's a little oversaturated, but that's why more people need to come to it and make their own unique content that's unique to them, share their own journey, because everyone's journey is different, everyone is different, what they can bring to the table is different, and it is so valuable. And I don't want anyone to be scared away from it whatsoever. I just want people to be informed, and that was the whole point of all the things. But I really want people to join. I want more people to watch, to listen, to make videos of their own, to write the books of their heart's dreams, blood, sweat, and tears. And Piper K, if you are listening, which I hope you are, please make a channel. I would absolutely love to watch you. Let me know in the comments or on Instagram or anything at all if you do make one, and I'll shout you out or something, because I don't want anyone to feel like they shouldn't or that they're not allowed to make videos or be a part of the community, because that is the opposite of, I think, what anyone wants. So that's a message for everybody. Now it's on to the videos. Or the songs. The songs. I'm gonna give you guys a lot of songs this time around because your girl missed out on a lot, and there's a lot of songs I want to show you guys. This isn't one of them.
I've been picking up every constellation, traveling galaxies without a station, faithful to my made-up mission. I've got problems, and no, I don't need another reincarnation. Losing my mind, searching for explanation, faithful to my made-up mission. Never felt like enough.
that was Curly 1. This is Curly Legends.
The world's new invention, a brand new generation from pure imagination. We're coming with the words that must be spoken. Our hearts cannot be broken. The innocence comes with wisdom. We're coming. We're already legends. We're already legends. We're already legends. We're just young. We're already legends. We're already legends. We're already legends. We're just young. We're the world's new creation, an independent nation, sent to be courageous. We're coming, with a sound that's so infectious. No choice but to respect us. There's no way you neglect us. We're coming. We're already legends.
The next one is Kehlani, Nights Like This, featuring $.
You act like you need a mind, trying to do it over, bring it back and rewind it. But all that glitters isn't gold, I was blind. Should've never give you my heart on consignment. And I can't believe the lies that I went for. Thought you was my bet, you decided to be with Jenna. You took my feelings and just threw them out the window. Feel like it's too hard to fall in love again. Oh, on some nights like this, shawty, I can't ever think of us. I've been reminiscing, sipping your shit up. Can you tell me what's the hardest thing to love? If I call, would you pick it up? On some nights like this, I just wanna text you word for word. You won't say you want me, then you switch it up. Just gon' play with my emotions just because. Sometimes I played the fool for you, thinking we could put it back together. Oh yeah, forever. You never see my point of view. How come that shit is so severed? You don't show me whatever. Can't believe the lies that I went for. Thought you was fine, but you decided to be with him though. Took my feelings and just threw them out the window. Feel like it's too hard to fall in love again. No, on some nights like this, shawty, I can't ever think of us. I've been reminiscing, sipping your shit up. Can you tell me what's the hardest thing to love? If I call, would you pick?
The next one is Papa Roach, Who Do You Trust?
Everywhere I go, I see people passing by. They keep staring back at me like some freaking paradise. Are you people savage? Pull the knife out from my back in the company of rich. I'll take royalty over royal side. Who you trust? Tell me who you trust. I see him coming up. Tell me who you trust. Who you trust? Tell me who you trust. I see him coming up. Tell me who you trust.
The next one is Ledger, Not Dead Yet. And that's the last one.
Taking me round by round, it hurts and it stings. Taking me down. You think that you caught me? I can hear it tell me fresher than falling down. My enemy is watching me bleed. But I'm not dead. Sometimes we fight. You don't have to shout it. It's a shot. I may be broken, but I'm not sad. I'm gonna fight when it's broken my last. 'Cause I'm not dead. No, I'm not dead.
And those are the songs. Alright, so that's it for this catch-up writing episode. I have no idea how long this has been, but thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, do give a big old thumbs up and comment down below if you have any questions for me, concerns, comments, anything at all, so you can be featured in the next video. Also, what did you think about this incredible journey and all the things that I have mentioned that have happened over the past year and all the questions that I got? Do tell me down below. But I'm gonna go, so remember to subscribe because I make writing and crime related videos every Friday. Bye!
Trying to step back and see the view from above, 'cause I know that